Is Spyro's design going to be changed in the next Spyro game? Maybe, perhaps not. This is actually a bit of a complicated question to sort through, so let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new Spyro the Dragon video. You know, it feels good to be back to talking about the purple boy. I love Crash to death, but I also miss the purple dragon. And luckily today, we have a bit of a complicated video for something that seems like a simple subjective question, but because, you know me, I love to overthink, everything. So Crash 4 had come out and we could see his design was changed, something that I think was an absolute overall improvement. But then people started to ask questions and extrapolate in my comment section and on my Twitter. The question that people have been asking is, if Crash Bandicoot got a redesign for his newly designed sequel, will Spyro get one too? Now, I could just give you my thoughts and, call it a day. But I really wanted to dig deep and think about the mindset that Activision has been in and try to see through their eyes and determine what I think will likely happen. And apparently I go on for, I talk a lot in this video. Alright, well, let's get into it. So, in order to start this video, we have to go back to the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. Now, the current narrative that I believe for Crash Insane in terms of development is that Activision had been sitting on the IP for, well, years and was doing nothing with it whatsoever. Internally, however, Activision was looking for a third-party studio to develop a brand new Crash Bandicoot game. Third parties were submitting their tech demos to Activision to try and get that contract, one of which was Big Red Button, when they submitted their Crash game demo, Crash and Burn, a tech demo built entirely in the Crytek engine in about 2 weeks. Now, even though this tech demo was impressive, it was not what Activision was apparently looking for. Then, sometime later on, Sony actually approached Activision and made a deal with them to make a brand new Crash Bandicoot game. Sony would help fund the project in exchange for a 1-year marketing and exclusivity deal. Activision agreed and turned to Vicarious Visions to make the next Crash game. Now, I am unsure when or who decided that it was going to be a remaster, whether it was from Sony themselves or Activision. However, from what I heard, Crash Bandicoot Insane was made with a very low budget with a relatively small team internally at Vicarious Visions, along with some help from the support studio Toys for Bob. So the Insane Trilogy was born and released, and it seemed that Activision was about to cash in on that big stinky check from PlayStation. But here's the thing, the hype for this trilogy went far beyond what Activision had ever expected. The excitement for the comeback for Crash Bandicoot was so high that they realized that they were sitting on a gold mine of older IPs that could get the same treatment as Insane and then eventually come back as a full swing new game. So Activision got Spyro started in its development, along with CTR and Tony Hawk. Except this time, instead of these projects being inspired by a big stinky check to cash in on from PlayStation, they funded the projects themselves. The Spyro Reignited trilogy was born from the fires of Toys for Bob's imaginations, and it blew us all away. This was a remake that was special to so many people in the gaming community, and a remaster from the ground up of the classic 3 games was the perfect choice. But Spyro Reignited was different from the Insane trilogy. And this is my first point I want to use towards my thoughts on Spyro's plausible future design. Crash Insane was good, and a perfect by-the-books remake, except for the hitboxes.
Ironic.
If you saw Insanity Island, you would generally be able to recognize it right away, even when comparing it to the original PlayStation 1 versions. Same with the enemies, environments, and everything else in between. Crash Insane added flair to the levels, of course, and fleshed out on some details, but didn't take too much creative liberty on the game. Now, look at Spyro Reignited. This was the first remake that was not funded by PlayStation or any other third party. This was purely a decision made by Activision themselves, hence why the games came out on Xbox and PlayStation on day one. Spyro had details added that went above and beyond the Call of Duty. Ha! Game pun. The worlds had mini stories within them. Themes were created like Dark Hollow's library. Then the dragons, the dragons were filled in so nicely with matching themes to the worlds that they were in, and they added so much character. Now again, Insane was good, but the Spyro project had a lot more creative liberty and changes done to the original titles. To invest so much creativity and then dash it away seems like something that's a bit backwards. But that's my subjective thinking. What about an objective business point of view? Well, let's get to my next point. The next thing that makes me think that Spyro's design won't change, or not change too much, is that it's reported that Crash Bandicoot 4 has been in production since 2017, which means before the Reignited trilogy had even come out or was even announced. Toys for Bob was already working on the new Crash Bandicoot title. Evidence of this comes from Twitter user @Sketchcraft, someone I'm a huge fan of. They worked on both Crash 4 and Spyro Reignited, but also made this amazing Spyro piece. I have it up on my wall and proudly display it in my room. Make sure to go follow @Sketchcraft, as he's an awesome guy. But Rob made this post back when Crash Bandicoot 4 launched, saying, quote, "I started development on Crash 4 in Dev 2017. When I resumed Crash work in the fall of 2018, I did a production piece to work out the tone/style that From Happy Rock and Nicola nailed for the game. This was the end result." Here, he shows his early concept art of Crash's final design in Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. So we can assume that before Spyro was even announced to the world, Toys for Bob was already figuring out and changing Crash with that soft gradient look that they have become very well known for. But Toys for Bob was thinking about changing Crash's design before Spyro was even made public, meaning that this soft gradient look was likely planned from the beginning for both Spyro and Crash, so that they have extremely similar aesthetics. It wouldn't make any sense to change Crash to match Spyro and then change Spyro's design completely, but the change of design so early in Crash might be the reason for my next point. The next point I want to make is merchandise. I know it's a little weird, but let me explain. How acquiring merchandise works is that a company, like let's say Numskull, pays for a license to legally sell products based on different franchises. The company of said franchise and the licensee talk and interchange ideas on what products the company is going to sell and what designs they're going to use. The franchise owner sends over images and references of the franchise that the merchandise company can base their products on. However, something interesting happened back in 2018. First Four Figures, a third-party statue company who has become a staple in making high-quality figures for Crash and Spyro, had said that the community wanted a Spyro and Cinder statue based off of the Legend of Spyro series. However, at a much later time, when a user on the Facebook group asked if there was any progress on the statue, Alex, one of the heads and employees of First Four Figures, said that, quote, "When we found out about the remaster, Activision asked us to concentrate on that to not confuse the marketplace. I'll take another look early next year." Then, Alex promised exactly what he said. Later on, they made a poll asking if people still wanted that statue. They had a goal of having over 800 people, and 890 people said that they wanted it. So they reached their goal and they asked Activision about it again. However, due to the silence, we can assume that the answer was still a big fat stinky no. Now, this is interesting. Activision wanted the spotlight on Reignited Spyro, and only Reignited Spyro. They did not want any other variation of Spyro on the market. Since then, more and more Spyro statues have come out that focus on the Spyro Reignited model. But do you notice how there hasn't been any statues of Insane Crash? There's a PVC Crash based on the Insane model, but the others are Classic Crash, Classic Aku Aku, and even a Classic Cortex, but no sign of Insane Crash anywhere else. There was a mention of an upcoming CTR statue, but it may have been cancelled because the only mention of it was almost 3 years ago when CTR launched, and they teased some 3D renders, a project that I suspect may have been cancelled. So let's put this all together. If Activision didn't want multiple versions of Spyro coming out in the market, and there has been no insane figures, it's likely because Crash's model was being changed. Activision didn't want the old model being used to promote their game, as they, in their words, didn't want to confuse the market. They're okay with the classic statues because it's a throwback to the past, but they seemingly don't want two modern Crashes on the market. Now remember how I said that First 4 Figures is still pumping out Spyro statues based on Reignited's design? The likely reason is Spyro's design is not going to be changed, because if it was going to be changed, it would confuse the market, as Activision had said. So Activision is likely approving these statues left, right, and center and giving it the thumbs up because the design's not changing. Okay, so in summary, subjectively, I don't think Spyro is going to get a complete redesign. Spyro was made on a larger budget than Crash Bandicoot Insane was, and had a bunch more creative liberty pumped into it. Crash 4 was in development before Spyro was even announced, and the aesthetic was already changed to match before either had come out. Why would they change Crash to match Spyro's design if they're going to be rehauling Spyro? And lastly, the reason why we haven't seen more Crash Insane content from First 4 Figures is because the new Crash was not released yet, but they did not want to confuse the market with the Insane Crash, with Crash 4 being on the modern market. Just like how they canned the Cinder and Spyro statue. But the reason we are seeing more and more Spyro statues is because the design is likely not changing so much and it won't confuse people on the market. Boom! I'm done. I'm tired. Someone get me a coffee!
Thank you so much to all those who not only support the channel, but myself and my family. Because of your contributions, I'm able to do this full time. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider clicking the join button or becoming a Patreon with the link in the description. I also live stream every Thursday and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on by and say hi. Again, thank you to everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video and or live stream.